What's up, y'all? If you got daddy issues or you got issues with your kids, with your father, you need to listen to this message, this story time. And if you hear a noise in the background, that's my niece outside playing. So a few weeks ago, I was in Florida, where I'm at now, of course, but I was down here and I had stopped by my dad's house to see him. Now, my brother was with me and so was my mom. My brother was upset with my dad because of something, so he left a note on my dad's car. When I came outside, because I looked at his car, went to go take it for a test drive. I seen a note and I took it out the car. When I got back to the house, I went inside, handed my dad the note, and I was like, look, like my brother, and I'm gonna say his name, which is Tyron. I was like, Tyron is upset with you. So when I said he upset with you, my dad, I was like, I think you should talk to him. My daddy being a petty man, and that's not dissing his character. You know, we just all petty in some form. He was like, well, since he left a note on my car, I'm gonna leave a note on his story. That's my daddy being funny. He's just a funny guy. And I was like, nah, Dad, I think you should talk to him. He's really upset. So I convinced him to get up out of bed to go talk to my little brother. And everything went left. It did not go right. They was arguing, fussing, fighting. It was a whole bunch of cuss words. It went horrible. Like, I was literally grieved. Like, a father and son should never argue the way that they argued. And sometimes it's needed. I'm going to tell y'all why. So it went horrible. And it was like a whole bunch of, you know, saying, oh, my daddy ain't do this, your daddy ain't do this, you wasn't never did this, you wasn't never that, and you only call me when this happened, you only call me when that. And it was a whole bunch of that going back and forth. And they did not make amends at all. So not once in my spirit did I feel like, dang, I should have never told him to come outside and make amends with his son, because that's something that is godly to do. But I seen all that happen, and it did not, the fruit that I was going for was not that. So it ended with all of that. It was like, okay, we don't gotta ever speak again. So me and my brother and my mom, we driving to the house. That's what my brother and my dad, that was their conversation. You know, they'll never speak again, stuff like that. So on the way to the house, literally, I'm talking to my brother, me and my mom, and we talking about certain things, and I'm telling him, like, you know, you still gotta honor your dad. You know, even if you feel like he's wrong, you do your part, you forgive, because you don't want to hold unforgiveness in your heart. And he's listening or whatever. So we get to the house, and because this whole argument has grieved me so deeply, like, and I'm telling y'all this because it's a testimony. Don't get it confused. This not no gossip tea time. This is a testimony. So yes.
Like, Mother Darren did there.
That's okay. Let me finish the story, okay? So, literally, I think you was in the car that day, wasn't you? Uncle Tank and Granddaddy was arguing? All right, so literally what happened was we got to the house, and because I was grieved so much, I literally went in the room immediately, got on my knees, and I prayed, because I read the Bible, I read the scriptures, I know what God says about certain things, and he's definitely into mending broken relationships and families. Only thing a family should be divided upon is the truth. So if they divided because one believes in Jesus, the other one don't, that's different. But if it's just over like silly stuff, I know God doesn't want broken families and broken hearts and stuff like that. So I went before him on my knees, and I gave him everything. Like that same night, this wasn't even 30 minutes I done got home. I got on, like, as soon as I got home, but it wasn't 30 minutes after the event. So as soon as I got home, I got on my knees and I said, Lord, your word says, how can we be forgiven if we don't forgive other people? And I was also telling him on how the word even says, Jesus Christ himself said, if somebody offends us, or we offended somebody, we need to make it right before we get into the court, and then the judge throw that person into jail and the officer arrest them. All this, I was giving him back everything that I read, and I basically was telling God, like, this is urgent to me. I was like, they offended each other, they need to make it right. I was like, God, but you have the power to soften people's heart. You can soften my brother's heart, you can soften my dad's heart. And I just gave it to him. So when I did that, I got up and I left out the room. Then I joined with my little cousin Lamont and Lamaya. Some of y'all seen Lamont letter on Instagram, the video where he basically a letter to the church. And I prayed with them because I know Lamaya, for example, I know when she be praying, I know God hear her. He hears all of us, but I know like she's a prayer warrior at a young age. She's only like 8. So she literally prayed. She said, God, please fix their relationship. I think that's probably the only few words she said. God, please make it right and fix their relationship. And we said, amen. So I sat on the couch and continued to tell my brother, like, you know, I think you should do this. I think you should do that. So my brother, he over there like, okay, yeah, what should I text him? Now his heart's softened. He trying to apologize to my dad and say whatever he gonna say. Mind you, they was just arguing like cats and dogs. And even my dad called me. This was all within an hour of this event happening. My dad called me and was like, you see how the devil worked? We were just in there talking about God, and then all this happened. I said, He said, you see how God told me to stay in the house, and you wanted me to come outside, and I told you God wanted me to stay in the house, and you made me come outside and all this happened. I said, nah, that's not what happened. I said, God wanted y'all to fix the relationship. And I said, and y'all didn't know how to communicate y'all feelings. So that's where the enemy took advantage of that. I said, you know, for example, for those of y'all who watching, you may be a little boy or a young man mad at your father because you feel like he don't spend time with you. So instead of you telling your daddy, oh, you don't never do this, you don't never do that, just be like, hey, I would like, bless you, I would like to spend more time with you. I would like to do more things with you. I would like to do more activities with you. I want to hang out more. And then for the dads out there, you may say, oh, my kids don't never call me. Instead of you telling them, oh, you don't never call me, you don't never speak to me, just be like, hey, you know, I want you to call me more. I want you to pick up the phone and ask me how I'm doing more. And we talked about that. So when I told my dad, I said, hey, y'all just didn't know how to communicate y'all feelings. And he was like, yeah. So he heard me, he listened. And then he was like, I was thinking about coming over there to talk to him, but I figured I'd give him a day. So I was like, no. You gotta see when God show you that small, not even small, that shift he did, you better hop on it and ride it. I was like, no, you need to come right now, because he's literally typing up a message to send you right now. So he was like, all right, I'm finna come. So my daddy got up out his bed. And I'm just being transparent with y'all. My daddy got up on his bed, and I just drove his car, so it was no gas in the car. So he had to stop by a gas station to get over there, I'm pretty sure. So he got up out his bed to come to talk to my brother. And we sat in that living room, and he poured out his whole heart. I never seen my daddy be this vulnerable in general. And he poured out his whole heart. It's like his heart was there, and my brother's heart was there, and they had a humble conversation. And they literally was just an hour ago, you would thought they was in the streets gonna fight each other, never knew each other, but a whole hour later they was able to soften their hearts and talk to each other and be very communicative with each other. And it was amazing. And my dad was very, like, he was being accountable for things that he felt. My brother was being accountable as well. My dad was being honest and transparent with certain things. I don't have to get into details, but it was just so good. And I was like, wow, my heart was just like amazed, because for God to do a work like that. And even my mom said, she said, listen, for y'all don't know, my daddy named T. So y'all see me TeeWhy, he T, big T, I'm little T. So my mom was like, for your daddy to actually do this is big, because the old him would have never did that. And even with my brother can, like, he can get a hard heart too sometimes. So, like my daddy was telling him, me and you, we got the same type of attitude. So, next thing you know, that happened, and it was so much fruit that came from the conversation. And then what I got from that is he takes everything and work it out for the good, just like the word says in Romans 8:8, how all things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. So for somebody out there who's listening to me, you may be looking at the bad that's happening and not realize that he's going to use that. And this is a great example, because if I would have never did that and convinced him to come outside, none of that would have never happened. That would have never transpired. And let's say I would have gave up and never prayed again, because I would have said, oh God, you failed me. God forbid, Lord, you know, you ain't never failed me. But let's say I would have said that and not prayed. Who's to say what would have been the outcome? But I took it right back to God, because I trusted him that he can work out the situation. And I know he's bigger than me. You know, he's a bigger mediator than I am. So when I did that, everything worked out. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, because a lot of people, we experience different hurts, different pains with our family, our relationships, and we don't realize that we can just give it to God and leave it at his throne and trust that he's going to work it out. So if you got anything going on in your life, my best advice would be to pray about everything, because the Bible says don't worry about anything. It said instead pray about everything, you know. So that's exactly what I did in that moment. That was my refuge. That was what I did. I prayed. It hurt my heart, and I prayed. And all that bad that looked like it was happening, it didn't prosper. So when the enemy thought he was going to ruin something, God said, no, I'm going to use that to redeem my people. So I just wanted to come on here and share that story with you guys, because that's amazing. Now, a lot of y'all out here, y'all probably think I'm like, you know, but I'm just a transparent vessel. And I just wanted to be honest on that story, that testimony, where I was in it, and how things may look bad, but it's not bad. Just trust God, because we're fighting against principalities. That's what the word says, y'all. We're fighting. We don't wrestle not against flesh and blood. See, that wasn't a flesh and blood battle. Even though we flesh and blood, that wasn't a flesh and blood battle. That was a fight against principalities. That was a fight against principalities and spirits that want you to harbor unforgiveness, hate, anger, rage. And I fought those principalities in prayer with the God when the word says God is love. And when I did that and took it before him, it's just like everything just shifted. So even my dad was like, you see how that was nothing but God, because he over there thinking about what he said. I'm over here thinking about what I said, and God brought us together to fix the situation. So that's an amazing testimony I have to share with y'all, and I just hope y'all receive it. So that's y'all word. A lot of y'all really needed that. I know y'all did. We live in a world where we need these type of testimonies to know that God is bigger than any obstacle. So on that note, I love y'all. This has been TeeWhy Talk. As y'all see, I've been doing these videos on here with my regular phone. That's because I figure if I put so much time into thinking about things, I'm not gonna get it done. So I'm the type of person, I gotta do things on the fly. So just be prepared to see more videos from me. And yeah, I love y'all.